Hello and welcome. The Purdue Institute for the Study of the Iranian World welcomes you to another episode of our podcast, Legacies of Ancient Persia. Join us as we further explore the many legacies of ancient Persia and its relevance to global patrimony. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Legacies of Ancient Persia. This week, our guest is Leyla Johnson, a Lebanese American video game developer specializing in historical strategy games and CEO of Mohawk Games. In this episode, we discuss her growing up in Lebanon with a love for history, learning all about Cyrus the Great and conducting historical research for her video game Old World, and working with a composer to achieve an ancient-sounding and culturally appropriate game soundtrack. Unfortunately, my normal microphone died and I was forced to use my headphones, so apologies for the sound quality. Additionally, Leyla was still recovering from an illness, so her voice hadn't fully recovered yet either. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and if you like what you hear, please give our show a 5-star rating and review us on Apple or Spotify.
All right, thanks for joining me, Leyla. I want to just start people off with a short introduction about you and how you got into gaming, because I think people don't really have, any idea how the gaming industry really comes together, because it's full of such diverse people, and so I want to give them a good basis for how someone was able to come into it from places outside of the US or UK where these industries are most popular.
Sure, yeah. Well, first of all, I'm very happy being here, Lexie, talking to you again. So I'm Leyla Johnson. I originally am from Lebanon. My name is Leyla Rouhana. And the way I got into gaming isn't necessarily by choice. I didn't choose my career. I didn't think I was going to be here where I'm at, being a CEO of a video game company and making games. So originally, I studied journalism and politics and education, and I had a couple of radio shows, and I also worked for the State Department. And eventually, I was hoping I become a teacher at a university. So that was the choice, my ultimate choice of where I wanted to be career-wise. I married a video game designer, and in 2013, we decided to put our savings together to start our own company, me having the stable job at the State Department just in case it doesn't work out. Eventually, our publisher went bankrupt, and Soren needed help, so I jumped on board, and now we run it together. So it's actually fun. I love being where I'm at because it tailors to the geek inside me. I love reading about history. The games we make are historical and strategy. I love these games, so I'm making the games I play.
That's wonderful. And it's again really wonderful to hear how someone did not actually want to go into gaming ended up there. And I think that also it's interesting that, so let's go back a bit. Did you grow up studying history formally? Did you always just have a love for it? Because I think, we have, the really cool sort of State Department side, which is more in the poli-sci realm. So yeah, where does the history come into it?
Yeah, it's one of the things I just was very passionate about. I was always curious to know what happened before. Yeah, I was always interested in the past. I loved reading about how people developed certain things. Why do we do the things that we do? It was interest in culture, in history, in traditions. This romance I had for the past, I still have it, which opened many doors for me. I learned how to speak. So in Lebanon, we learn how to speak French while learning how to speak Arabic and learning how to speak Lebanese at the same time. And I was already fluent in 3 languages by the age of 7 or 8. And eventually I wanted to learn English because I was curious. Why do Americans do blank? The American culture is my biggest reason why I learned English. It's because of the music and the movies and this culture that was so available everywhere. And I was very curious to know about it. And then I wanted to learn Spanish, which opened up a whole range of information somewhere else in the world. And I was just always curious about how people speak different things and what they mean. I loved making connections. And of course, if you actually look behind people who have this type of pattern, you'll see someone who loves history. And eventually I married someone who studied history at Stanford, Thorin. And it's just, we had the world to talk about. It's just, conversations don't stop. Yeah, I love history. I'm absolutely passionate about it. I think my list of books that I read is largely historical. Reading about the history of Lebanon and the Phoenicians and the Ottoman Empire all at once right now.
Oh, that's really cool. That sounds like a great read. So I recently got into Ottoman history. I had to for my master's thesis last year, but I would love to.
Mm.
It's like a gateway drug. You read one thing and then you're like, oh, I gotta read more. I gotta read more.
Well, it's connected. It's connected for me because Lebanon was occupied or ruled for 400 years by the Ottoman Empire. So I'm like digging, and you're so right. Like I was digging into the Phoenician history and the history of Lebanon much deeper than what we were taught in school. And then, of course, everything goes back to like somewhere else where I need to like open a new door. And what do you know? Like my nightstand has 7 very big books. I don't think it's fun. Like people who are listening to us saying this is fun read. I mean, there are friends who stopped going in car rides with Soren and myself because if it's a long ride, we're probably going to end up talking about history. That's kind of boring. Like, I'm not joking.
How could that be boring? Goodness me, I'd love a long, like 7 hour road trip just talking about history because I swear you'll get from like ancient Rome to some weird thing and then you'll circle back and then end up in like Mesopotamia and you're like, how did that just go in a big circle?
Yeah, which happened first, right? Like now that we have children, I'm so happy because like we can manipulate them any way we want. So they think this is fun conversation because they just been around us for too long.
Oh, maybe we all aspire to have
Yeah.
history curious children who want to talk about like the weirdest mysteries of ancient history with us. So, I mean, and it's really cool. I mean, Phoenician history, it's so interconnected, and I love the ancient cultures most that were quite mobile, right? You have this long history of trading and ships, and the ones who kind of get around. I mean, all ancient cultures are super amazing in their own way, but it's very funny because sometimes I think about, a place like Egypt, and I'm like, well, they kind of went out of their cocoon and they conquered, but then they like to come back home, and they're like the ancient homebodies. Um, they didn't really kind of go out and want to be everywhere. So for those that did, it's always kind of fun because then you get these great stories of them going and discovering other places, and you're like, oh, okay, so what can I learn about? Where did they go this time, or what did they find? What are we going to trade? So kind of sticking with the history theme, I was going to say, so it seems like, you definitely have a broad interest in history in general, right? So when you sort of decided to sort of take this further, though, was it a conscious decision to sort of stay close to your own, country history? Did you want to expand and try something like different, like vastly different? 'Cause, how did this sort of build?
I wish I can translate this in a best way. In Lebanon, we have a saying that says "الكنيسة القريبة ما بتشفي," which translates to the closest church isn't my place of prayer. Like we always want to expand beyond where we are. And somehow I found myself back in Lebanon. I expanded to all other cultures and I dug much deeper than I would dig in my own backyard. And now that I am at this age, after digging in the big cultures and the ones that, were required for old world, I wanted to just dig a whole lot deeper into the Lebanese and Phoenician history. When I say deeper, it's like I have good knowledge, but I am on the geekiest level. Like I'm literally learning Phoenician. So that's deeper for me. I'm going through the Phoenician alphabet and trying to restructure words and see like, oh wow, this is the evolution of what we know today. It was the written alphabet coming from Phoenicia. So I was like, oh, let me see the progression here. So it's a whole level of geek.
No, that's fantastic. And it is quite interesting because I know there's, a lot of cultures like having just been in Greece last year, Greeks really love learning about their history, their very illustrious history.
Hmm.
And then there's other places that, they're like, yeah, our history's awesome. Yeah,
Egypt.
exactly. Egypt as well.
Egypt, yeah, this year I've been noticing, especially because of social media, how much the Egyptians are pushing back against, you know what, we have this unique identity, we have this unique history, we have that people neglected for decades in Egypt, and you see that the young ones now are really bringing that the Egyptian identity back. There are some clips that I saw online that they've been promoting where old Egyptian script is part of the new songs, and they're printing T-shirts with the old Egyptian letters. It's really nice to see this push to learn more about your heritage and your history. So yeah.
Yeah, no, and I think it's important to do so. You kind of want to know, what your, your home has been through. It's something to help, connect with your community. So, yeah, no, I think it's a really great movement. So, okay, now I want to pivot us a little because you mentioned Old World, and so for those who are not aware of what it is, can you tell our audience just like brief summary of what Old World is and also why it's super awesome?
Old World is this video game that takes you back to the classical antiquity. And you have 7 civilizations. You can pick one and start with a leader. We did a lot of research to create this game. It's a product of love. It's a historical strategy. And you start with your leader of choice and you build your kingdom and you marry if you're not already married. And in some cases, you can marry multiple people, depends on the rule of your land around that time. You can also change the settings to make it whatever you want. And you expand your kingdom, you make alliances. You also try to keep on good terms with your family members so they won't assassinate you, because back in the day, that's what they used to do. And speaking of the Ottoman Empire, that's basically every ruler who made it to the throne killed all of their siblings. That's just too broad. Most of the rulers, because I don't want someone to come, well, actually, there is a handful of people who didn't. But back in the day, to establish legitimacy, you have to eliminate anybody else who might have a call to the throne. So, yeah, you have to keep on good terms with your wife, with your kids. You have to also make sure that they have the right tutors so they become good leaders. So it's just very busy in your kingdom, and you just have to make it through. Eventually, you'll die. Your heir will take over, and they keep going. Wars will happen. So you have to be continuously with every new character that's taken over your land. You have to play the hand you are dealt with this new ruler you are being. I love the game because it has the right amount of strategy and the right amount of randomness. Because at the end of the day, your kid will be whatever they want to be. You can only have so much influence over them in real life and in the game. And you just have to lead with whatever ruler you've created. So it's kind of nice. I like Old World. Thank you, Lex. Thank you, really.
I mean, it's an amazing game. And what I think one thing I love most is that one, it's a more accessible game for those who don't consider themselves gamers. And, it doesn't require having like a super complicated console setup. So it is one of those that, any sort of casual history fan could sort of pick up, put in a computer and be like, okay, let me just try this. And, I don't think it's too hard to learn how to play. So it's kind of good for people of all ages, and just to provide example for any of our listeners who are on the older side who are like, oh no, I don't understand this gaming thing. I gave it to my now 84-year-old father who is like, I don't game, I don't understand this, I don't know anything. I like put it on his laptop and just booted it up and I was like, Dad, just try it. Look, it's really easy. There's like a guide, it will help you. And within like 2 hours, he was like having a great time. He's like, there's so much history. It's accessible.
It's not easy. It's not easy to make a historical game because as soon as you want to replicate history the same way it happened, or what we know of this, the way it happened, you are removing agency from the player. So yes, there's history And we'll always come back to that. We'll always provide the player with information that this actually happened. If you want to read more about it, click that link. There's like a globe, an icon they can click to learn more about what happened. But we're hoping that by osmosis, we're recreating a world and saturating the game with all sorts of information to take the player back to that specific part of the world. So even the music, I don't know did you know that we were the only indie game this year to be nominated for a Grammy? We didn't win it.
I did know that, but the audience doesn't, so they're gonna learn.
Well, it's amazing. It's really, really nice to have worked on something. We worked on the soundtrack. We worked for 4 years on that soundtrack, but I dug deeper again. My idea of deeper is a little different. So I went and researched all sorts of people who play ethnic music from that part of the world and worked with some of them. Some of them aren't alive anymore. And I tried to recreate music from that part of the world, working with the awesome Christopher Tin, who already won a couple of Grammys for his work in the games industry as well.
I absolutely loved the music. I have the soundtrack on my phone. I listen to it. And okay, so I do want to get into that. Now, just again for a little exposition for the audience, who are the 7 people you can play in the game? The 7 cultures.
Yeah. So you have Dido of Carthage, that's Phoenicia, and you have Hatshepsut of Egypt. You have Cyrus the Great of Persia, Philip II, the father of Alexander the Great of Greece, and you have Rames of Rome, and Nebuchadnezzar of Babylonia, and Ashurbanipal of Syria, Assyria. I think I've gone over them.
I think that sounds like everyone. I haven't played the game in a while, but I'm pretty sure that's everyone.
They're like my babies. I created them. I've researched them. I was the art director for 2D art, so I just researched the way they looked and how their skin tones and their hairstyles and with jewelry that they wore. So you feel like, this is, you don't want to forget one of your children. Like, I want to make sure.
Oh, I get it. I know. Well, spending years with them and creating them, I mean, that definitely creates a connection. And so, for the purposes of our audience, I'm sure they're going to be excited and say, "Oh, I can play as Cyrus the Great." It's interesting. The more I've been doing this, the more I've sort of realized that people have a cursory understanding of like Persian and other Middle Eastern cultures' history. When you say Persians, a lot of people will one confuse it with some of like the other Mesopotamian civilizations, or they'll say, "Oh yes, I know Cyrus and like maybe a Darius or a Xerxes if you're lucky."
Yeah.
So it's interesting. I mean, any particular reason you chose Cyrus and not Darius or Xerxes or someone else?
Well, we were trying to go back to somebody who started. How far can we go back to create a leader that we have enough information about and has a very, very interesting story to tell? And honestly, Cyrus is just a phenomenal pick for a multitude of reasons. First of all, Cyrus is the father-in-law of Darius. And Darius would not have been if Cyrus didn't create that opportunity. It is phenomenal for me, Cyrus the Great, with his story, how many things were inspired by his being. As I was listening one day to Dan Carlin in a podcast of King of Kings. If you haven't listened to this, go listen to it, really. What is it called? Histories Untold? I don't know, but he has this podcast that is just phenomenal that I can't get enough of. One of those favorite ones of mine are the Wrath of Khans, which is about the Mongols. Hardcore history, that's what it's called. And the King of Kings, which tells the story of Cyrus the Great. And what I didn't know is that Shakespeare, for example, with his literature work of Titus Andronicus, the guy who cooked a meal around someone's child and fed them that meal, is based on this violent story from the times of Cyrus the Great. That the story of beware of your child, she's gonna bear a prince who's gonna come after you, actually comes from the story of Cyrus the Great. So Yeah. So here's a man who was very happy ruling this land, and he gives birth to this beautiful, wonderful princess. And one day he has a dream or is told that your princess will marry this mighty ruler and she will come after you. So her father decided to marry her off to this unknown kingdom somewhere and be done with her. A year later, he has another dream that she bore a son and he was strangling him. So he sent his captain or military leader or somebody he trusted to go and kill that child. So he went over there, kidnapped the child, didn't have the hearts to kill him, gave him to a shepherd, and a shepherd raised him. And the shepherd raised him knowing that he is the son of royalty. So he provided the best things for him, thinking he's of noble blood. He has to have the best of everything. And eventually, that kid was very well trained in military combat and in all sorts of arts and made his way back to the court of his grandfather. And the grandfather was so impressed with him, he asked about him. And the shepherd told him the story. He's like, hey, he's your grandchild. So that angry ruler was so angry with his captain that his reaction was to invite him and his wife to dinner, and he fed him his own son. It's heartbreaking. But that's the story of Titus Andronicus to a degree. And that military leader couldn't react to a king, but the way he reacted is after many years, that grandson went back and formed a Persian army and attacked his grandfather. And that leader, the military leader, opened the doors for him to do so. So you see that chain of events that led like in a very ancient, violent story. What's not to love about Cyrus? If he didn't even do anything yet, and there's this much that is around him. And of course, there are the stories of how he spread religious tolerance and people kind of flocked to him, wanted to be with him, wanted to be part of his empire. And that kind of sped things for the spread of the Persian Empire of thousands of years today of beautiful culture. You read about Cyrus's Zoroastrian like love for peace and humility in the way he did things. Even when he died, on the tombstone he had something like tread lightly, don't begrudge me my small piece of earth where I'm lying. Like it was just so much love. Here lies Korosh, which is their name for Cyrus. There's so much to love about that part of the world. Lexie, how my heart breaks for whatever's going on. It's been going on for a couple of years now. All the love to the people of Iran and the women of Iran. And I really, really hope they come back. We love their culture. We love their history. And we stand in solidarity with them.
And their food. Their food is really good too.
Oh my gosh, yeah. But you're talking to a Lebanese, so we share food and we claim it's ours first, so. Your food is my food. My food is your food.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Okay. Wow. See, now I'm thinking about all the delicious food and all the wonderful cultural things, and now it's really hard to get back to this, but I will do my best. So, I think, the next logical question would be, so when you're doing all the research and trying to, craft a character for a video game, how much of this history, like there's so much, right? Obviously, there's textbooks and textbooks and books filled with information, and you can't cram it all into your game because you have to make it work for a game. So, how much of the research that you get to do when you do a deep dive actually ends up in the game that people are seeing?
A lot of it. So I cram it differently. So if, for example, I'm researching Cyrus and I'm like, okay, so he was about this years old. He had these prominent figures. So his family tree is going to be his daughter, his son-in-law, and probably Xerxes. It's like you have all of these figures that we know of around him. And then I know of his religious tolerance, about his background. So what kind of personality he will have. What will he know? We know he was a great military leader. He has a great, physical ability. So we recreate the possibility of him looking in a specific way. And knowing what he's done in his empire, you give him traits that are based on these known things, like tolerance. Hatshepsut, for example, of Egypt, was known for her savviness in religion and her wearing a fake beard because she wanted to convince them that she has the ability to rule just like a man. So she faked like an iron beard that she wore on very formal occasions. So we kind of have an idea of how to build someone physically. Her ability to be this strong, and so it kind of everything is influenced by how you see someone. How do you see there just an insanely brave woman? How do you see her? Did she fight with her military or not? Did she favor formalities or not? So you can just kind of go to the formal Egyptian dress instead of the casual Egyptian dress. Was she religious? So your dress is influenced by religion. Did she care a lot about jewelry and dress? Like, so you know how busy you're going to make her wardrobe. All of these were factors. And especially that, to me, history isn't just a set of events happen in a specific date. It's the romance of the story. It's, oh my gosh, like what, his grandpa wanted to kill him? Like all of that things that, just kind of make history so much more colorful and crazy and insane. But I want my players to know this. So what I do is recreate events for them in which these things are happening, right? I couldn't do it with Cyrus, for example, because it happened in his past. But I can recreate it and put it in front of the player, and the player would see that globe and go, what? This happened? And then they can click and go, yes, this was actually the past of Cyrus the Great. So I love history, and it's much more powerful than I am. I can never write that type of insanity. So I try to trim the fat and put it inside of my game in any way possible. So I can tell the player, look, this happened. Now you know, right?
I mean, I think it's fantastic. And I mean, I guess the other thing is how much space do you have to be accurate, and where do some of the cuts and other things have to be made and adjusted, right, to account for the fact that it is still like edutainment, right? It can't be completely 100% accurate. So where does that, line fall?
And the fact that most of the players don't like to read. Like, don't like to read this much text when they're playing a game. Not they don't like to read in general. So it's still an entertainment. So keep it at X amount of characters. It's like kind of like Twitter-ish kind of rule, or X now. I don't like the new change. I don't like this type of change. So like when the good old days of Twitter, you are bound by a certain amount of characters. And we have something like this for the game, that if you're going to write an event, the shortest, the simplest way possible, and you deliver the story, and then you can make a chain out of it. So you deliver the first couple of lines of what happened, and then you have options, and the player clicks them. And if they chose the same thing that happened in history, it takes them to the next sequence, and the next sequence just the way it happened historically, or they can choose something else and have a different outcome. So I try, it's there, and I don't necessarily want the player to play this specific way. I love that the player is also using their own strategy, what's really good for them, and living their own scenario. So it's kind of cool to see, but it's there.
At least it's there. And, that's what I love, that, the care that you guys put in is astounding, just because like you look at other historical games that are made, and some have like an astonishing amount of detail and some do not. Yeah, no, I love knowing that it's there if you want to find it, and you can kind of choose and customize how much do I want to see, how much do I want to get, how much do I want to just go in and play this. And I think in terms of media, like we don't have a lot that's committed to showing a sort of respectful and accurate portrayal of especially cultures in the Middle East. So, was that an intentional focus that, you wanted to choose some of these, ancient Mideast cultures and really do them justice, because we're not seeing that anywhere else?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. There aren't many games that kind of teach you about that part of the world. Generally, everyone here in the US is focused on Greece and Rome. And you feel like, oh, did you know about the Phoenicians? And it feels like they know more about Carthage because it was in contact with Rome. And I'm like, Carthage was a colony of Phoenicia, just like one expansion of their cities. But like, how much can you dial it back to people who don't know about you? So yeah, that was a great opportunity for me to expand into that part of the world. For me also to learn more, to do what I love doing, but also kind of dissect it. And this dissection is great discipline. Like this whole thing, like I love cooking. It's very therapeutic for me. And similarly, because similarly in baking or cooking, you have to go with certain measurements in a specific way. So it's methodical. So the gaming industry kind of helped me, or the old world helped me bring these large, vast, colorful stories and just bring them down to, a few words, to like being able to dissect it enough to fit it in a specific pattern and shed some light onto what happened. Like, for example, democracy in the US is largely credited to what civilization?
Greece or Roman Republic even.
Yes. But there are many examples on how the Greek philosophers talked about the democracy that was available that was in Carthage. And they talked about how their system of rule, very democratic, was the most effective rule. So it was there. The Greeks didn't have it yet. And they were talking about it being there in different civilizations. So when I'm talking to my kids, I'm like, you are half Phoenician, babies, and this is where democracy came from. And then they go to school and they flunk their tests.
Well, you know what? It's setting them up for real world success, maybe not scholastic, since our system skews in a different way, but they know the real history, the real truth, and that's more important.
Well, yeah, it's yeah, I don't want them to be the kids at school going, well, actually, but it is sad. It is sad that, you know what, it existed for a while longer. It was there before it was in Greece. And there are gods in mythology that were taken by Phoenician gods. And yeah, so it's kind of nice to shed light to some of those things. And that world didn't start with Greece and Rome. They are wonderful civilizations. They are, they've done so much, but like that world started with Sumeria, Assyria, Babylon, Jbel, that city that lands on the coast of Lebanon alone is 11,000 years old. So like it's worth the attention. It's worth the conversation. So yeah.
Yeah, no, it's really good to see like accurate love and care given and committed as well, like committing fully to tell these stories from a region of the world that in the US especially we sort of gloss over. And well, considering recent history, a lot of people probably are like, I don't really want to talk about that. So no, it's refreshing to see, also just because games industry could get better at it, but also film and TV are sort of behind. It's very telling that when I try to talk about media with a lot of people who do Persia, that the only thing they can bring to mind is like the 300s. Like it's very telling that that's a very wide open space that you can't really talk about much else. And so I am very happy though that with Old World I can sort of bring in something and say, actually, wait, there's this thing. We're going to learn history and it's great and it's accurate. Like it's not just some really weird, bad, orientalizing thing.
Well, for you, I will say this, that the next couple of games, depends which one comes out. We're working on 3 at the same time, but 2 of our next games are going to be very much focused on that part of the world and bringing, eccentricities from that part of the world. It's going to be fun, with one of them being specifically Persia centered.
Oh my God. Folks, you've heard it here first. So if you're looking for something new in media that is Persia focused, I will refer you to this episode until eventually the announcement is made and we can hear more about this unnamed project.
It's Persia focused and not necessarily from a historical specification. Something that was taken from Persia and then the whole story happens around it.
Interesting. Well, I'm really excited to learn more about this as more details get dripped down to the rest of us laymen outside of the studio. So, one thing I did really want to ask you is, so I know you mentioned working with Christopher Tin on the soundtrack. Now, having listened to it, it's gorgeous and wonderful, and I recommend that anyone listen to the soundtrack from this game. But it struck me because little fun fact, and it's kind of a little nod to the hard work you've done, is that when I was looking at trying to work with our composer to compose our theme for this show,
Mm-hmm.
one of the reference tracks that I sent him was from your game, from sort of the whatever the track is called, referencing Persia.
Uh-huh.
And I just wanted to know, like, how did you go about researching to try to get an accurate sound?
So a lot of researching happened with Chris on board. Like all the sounds that I could. So we created a soundtrack that before we worked with Chris, like hands-on. We always knew that we were going to work with Chris for sure, but I was creating a soundtrack on the side that had that Chris didn't work on. It's just like more music that we licensed. And building the soundtrack, when I felt that these are sounds that I want Chris to work around, I made a special list just for Chris, and it kept growing. And I send it to Chris so he'd surround himself with the music. I created like a certain type of, if you want, vision or vocabulary. Like we want this pleading sound, like someone who's chanting in plea and religious prayer, because everything was intertwined. People are going to war, they pray to the gods. There's just like this vast world where you can feel echoes between mountains and skies and this chant. That's the only way we could, I don't know, just bring in the sound of that part of the world, is through chanting, through the ambiance of the music itself. So I went back to that part of the world and I brought in the vocabulary that was very important for me to use to talk to Chris. And it is hard having English not be my first language, and I'm trying to find those exact words that I know what they mean in my language, and just kind of trying to figure out how to translate that to Chris. And honestly, it's just all goes to Chris. Chris is a phenomenal mind reader, spirit leader, a vision reader. Like he just got it. I'd go for walks and I hear like some type of instrument in the back, and I go look it up and send it to Chris, and I say, oh, these sounds would be great to include. And what do you know, he does the Chris thing, and it's there. There was like tabla and nai and all of those instruments that are old that I'd find and unearth and send to Chris, and he was just doing his Chris magic.
I mean, it's incredible. And for those who are unfamiliar with the music of Christopher Tin, he scored, I mean, I feel like still probably the most notable thing he scored that people would maybe be familiar with in a wider context would be the music for Civilization 4. So he created the main theme, Babia 2, and there's been a billion covers and other things done online. And it's gorgeous, and it's one of my favorite study soundtracks to listen to. So
to anyone who doesn't know Chris, it's not like the typical gaming sound of like Nintendo, or it's just a whole score of incredible music that Christopher generates. You can find him on Twitter, on Instagram. Just go take a look. He always posts new things that are happening in his world, new scores he is working on, and shares information with all y'all. So just give him a good follow and see what an amazing musician is capable of. I just find him incredibly phenomenal. He's a friend, so he's gone with Soren to Oxford and Stanford, and they've known each other for a very long time. I don't want to say how long, it makes me feel very old. He's always here in our part of the world, and he's working on very exciting things. And it's I can't wait for him. I don't know if he shared it already or he hasn't shared it, but it's just give him a follow. And
yeah, well, I hope they do, because he is awesome. I don't know him personally, but yes, he is awesome.
Interested in learning more about the wonders of ancient Persia? Visit the UCLA Archaeological Gazetteer of Iran. The Gazetteer digitally preserves famous locations, World Heritage sites, and lesser-known areas from all time periods of ancient Iranian history. You can explore using the interactive map or visit the encyclopedic catalog for updates to the ever-growing list of archaeological sites. Visit www.irangazetteer.ucla.edu and learn more about what the Archaeological Gazetteer of Iran has to offer.
So there are two questions I normally sort of end the podcast with, and I'm going to expand it a little for you because obviously you're not within the field of Iranian studies, so I feel like I can open it up. So the first of which is, what do you believe is the greatest legacy left to us from ancient Persia slash for you, the Middle East?
That's not fair. It isn't fair, honestly, because it's like I'm trying to be nice to the Persian, culture. It's just if they've done some wonderful things. I don't know where to start. Like, I'm not Muslim, but for Islam alone, the scholars that were available by way of Persia are amazing. The scholars in terms of science, in terms of philosophy, Ibn Sina, Al-Ghazali, Al-Khwarizmi, Omar Khayyam, Farabi, like they're all Persians. They sound like, oh, these are Arabic names, but they're actually Persians. And if you look at, like even literature, I won't go to history because we've talked about history a lot, but like 1001 Nights comes from the land of Persia, but it's called Arabian Nights because later the Arabs translated it and added to it, like the story of Aladdin and the story of Ali Baba, and these stories were added to the story that came from 1001 Nights. They were called 1001 Nights because there's this woman called Shahrazad who was telling a story every night to a king so he doesn't kill her, and she kept him on a cliffhanger so he doesn't kill her, so he hears the rest of the story. And every night she did the same thing for 1001 Nights. So there was a Syrian Christian man around the 1700s, if I'm not mistaken, who added the story of Aladdin and of Ali Baba, and they called it the Arabian Nights because they were told in all different places, in coffee shops and gathering places with Hakawati, the storyteller, and they were repeated in that part of the world. And this is where they originated from to the rest of the world, from the Arabs. So there's so much that is given: the art, the colors, the Persian miniatures. What is there? It's just a whole lot of world to love, a whole lot of culture. I love that part of the world and how much it gave to us today. My heart breaks, and I send all sorts of love and prayers and blessings and prayers to them, and hope they come out of this and get to live in a better legacy than what they are living through today. Lexie, there's so much I can tell you about Persia. We might need another podcast to just dissect different parts. I can talk about the art of Persia, the food of Persia, the history of the food in Persia, the leaders of Persia, the Achaemenids, the Sassanids, the scholars. They've given so much to the world. So
Yes, they have so many wonderful different legacies, and yes, believe me, I would love to get into more deeper conversations with you on all of those individual topics, and maybe we will have to have you back because
maybe
we have many topics we need to get through. But the last question is, what do you think would be the best legacy that we ourselves can leave for future students of Iranian or Middle Eastern studies? Like Middle Eastern, anything, that part of the world. Let's go with that.
I think to approach that world with humility, the world that is still unknown to us, largely unknown, and to have interest in that part of the world and understand that things weren't birthed with the histories. And they say it lovingly, with the birth of what we know today as the white people of Europe. Like, sure, Greece is amazing history and drama, and Alexander the Great and his dad, that's like, Olympias being the it's just so much there too. But there is so much in that world. There's so much interest. approach that world with love and humility and interest, and be open to have your beliefs change about where certain things came from. Like I said earlier, democracy didn't, originated from a different part of the world, and it's older than we think it is. So, well, sometimes our inner fear that, oh well, I don't want my beliefs to change. I've been told, this way, and why, and we're suspicious. Keep in mind all of these studies, archaeology, and they've been coming to us just recently in the 1900s, in the mid 1800s. So we're just still learning about that part of the world. If you don't make that step to have an open mind, you're going to affect generations and centuries of education to come, just because we just do not want to be open to something that's just very nascent, very new, that can influence a whole lot of generations to come. So,
Yeah, no, that's a great answer. We have a lot to do to make the future study of this part of the world and these fields better. So that's a great first step. And the actually last thing I'm going to ask you is, where can people find you if they want to follow, your work and find the games?
You can find me at Leyla Cat J on X, just Twitter. I post sometimes what I think. If you find another account associated with mine as called Leyla Aghani, which is like my account for the Arabic audience. So when I go and the algorithm is playing its thing, it plays it in Arabic for me on one account and in English. So if you are English speaking, go to at Leyla Cat J and you'll find me there.
Great. Well, we'll make sure that we will link a lot of as many things as I can find to your project so people can find it. And, I hope they'll go and download Old World and get obsessed with this version of history, just like I am as well. So we do want to have you back, because you've mentioned a lot of things that we didn't get to go into. But I wanted to thank you for taking time out of your very busy schedule to come and talk to us. So
thank you, Lexie. Thank you so much. And I'd love to do that podcast. 10 minutes to cover culture, 10 minutes to cover history, 10 minutes we cover scholars.
Legacies of Ancient Persia is a Portavood podcast production, hosted and edited by Lexie Henning, with select episodes co-hosted by Marissa Stevens. Cover art provided by Hadley Leesman and original music by Brent Arhart. Established in 2017 as the premier research center for the study of ancient Iran, the mission of the Portavood Institute for the Study of the Iranian World is to engage in transformative research on all aspects of Iranian antiquity, including its reception in the medieval and modern periods, by expanding on the traditional domains of old Iranian studies and promoting cross-cultural and interdisciplinary scholarship. Thanks for listening to our show. It's available to stream on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Portavood Institute and at Portavood UCLA, or visit our website, portavood.ucla.edu. If you enjoyed today's episode, please give us a 5-star rating and review us. For podcast inquiries or questions about the Portavood Institute, please email us at portavoodpodcastproduction@gmail.com. We'll see you next time as we continue our deep dive into the legacies of ancient Persia.